Hey everybody, welcome back to our deep dive into the Gospel of Luke. We are continuing in Luke chapter 8 today with a story that is quite incredible. Reading verses 26 all the way down to verse 39, we see a story of Jesus encountering a man who's possessed by demons. He exorcises those demons, expels those demons. They go into some pigs, jump into the sea, die, and everybody is quite perplexed, scared. They ask Jesus to leave, and this man wants to follow Jesus. That's the story we'll dig into in a second. But we are meant to see this section of Luke as one story after another of Jesus's kind of miraculous powers, which reveal his authority. They tell us about who he is. So in the previous story, Jesus calms the storm, and the disciples respond, "Who is this that even the wind and the waves obey him?" They don't have a category for Jesus. This is something that only God can do, as we saw in the Old Testament passages. And so they're seeing God in the form of this man, and they don't quite know what to do with him. And here we have the same kind of reactions. We have several different reactions in this story. We have the demon's reaction, we have the crowd's reaction, and then we have the man himself as he's healed in his reaction. So let's dive into this and see what this story is all about. As I said before, this is a really powerful and incredible, but also strange story, which asks a lot of questions, but also leaves some questions unanswered. And so we have this story where Jesus is now crossed with his disciples to the other side of the Lake of Galilee, and now he's come to a region that is Gentile territory, so non-Jewish people. And as he gets out of the boat, a man who is demon-possessed from the town comes to him. And we're given this description of this guy, that he had lived amongst the tombs, that he had was living in the countryside surrounded by pigs, and that he had been possessed by various demonic forces, spirits, and that people had tried to bind him, to chain him, but he was so strong that he could break out of those chains and would just wander around into solitary places. All of these descriptions are match ancient Near Eastern stories of like what demon possession actually looks like. And so this man fits every category. And if we're thinking about like, well, how do we know that this guy just didn't have a mental disorder versus demon possession? Ancient texts show us that people had categories for mental disorders or issues of the mind, and this was a separate category altogether. And so the text is very clear in the description of this man that he isn't just someone who is suffering with a mental illness, but he's someone who's in a different category altogether, that he's demon-possessed by the descriptions of him living amongst the tombs. That's where, an unclean place where dead people live, that nobody wanted to hang out there, that he had this supernatural power, that this power often seized him and led him to solitary places, that he lived amongst these unclean animals. All these descriptions that are given to him match that this is more than just a mental illness. And so Jesus encounters him. He starts to expel these demons out of this man. The demon, this man who's possessed by the demons, fall at Jesus' feet, and they reveal something interesting that they know about Jesus. They say, "What do you want with me, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." This is a recognition that the crowd, the people in this story, don't yet know of Jesus just yet. They don't really know who he is. They're trying to figure that out, as we saw in the very last story. But here, the demons see clearly who Jesus is. That even though they are powerful enough to possess this man and do incredible feats of strength, that they are nothing compared to who Jesus is. And that not only is Jesus just this more powerful being, but he, in fact, is the Son of the Most High God. They recognize his authority, and that he is not just a prophet or a man of power, but he is God, Son himself. Jesus has this interesting reaction, which is a very human reaction. Instead, after this demon falls at his feet, he says, "What's your name?" It's a very human thing to ask someone their name, even demons, right? And so the man says, "We are legion because we are many." A legion is a Roman, a particular squadron of the Roman army that numbered anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000 people. The Gospel of Mark maybe refers to that there were 2,000 people, 2,000 demons possessing this man, because he gives us the number of pigs that swooped into the ocean of 2,000. And so we're meant to picture a great number, not just one demon. This guy's possessed by many demons. And then they beg Jesus not to send them into the abyss, which is really strange. The abyss in the Hebrew Bible was the place of the dead. It was where everybody was thought to go. Another word of this is Sheol or Hades. And so this is a place where the dead were thought to be confined. But it was also the place where demons, the evil spirits, were meant to be imprisoned. And so they see Jesus and they know his power, and they're like, "We don't want that to happen to us. Don't send us there." And so, strangely enough, they see a bunch of pigs on the hillside, and they say, "Can you send us into those pigs instead?" Jesus, again, strangely, yields to their request and says, "Sure, you can go into the pigs," which begs the question, well, why? It never really tells us why. But one prevailing theory is that in the Jewish world, pigs were considered unclean animals. And so he's taking one unclean set of demons and moving them into an unclean set of animals. But then this strange thing happens where the pigs run off the cliff into the sea and they drown. This picture is kind of really strange, that why would Jesus give permission for the demons to go into these pigs, to not send them to the abyss, but they go into the sea, which is also how the Bible describes the abyss. It's the chaos waters that, where spirits or people are confined and overwhelmed. And so regardless of what the demons wanted to not go into the abyss, that's exactly what happens. They're completely destroyed or confined, and that is Jesus' power. But why the pigs? Well, the other explanation is that this, by showing that these demons go into the pigs rather than just disappear into nothingness, shows the people, the disciples, the man, the crowd, that this has actually happened. This isn't just a trick, that this guy was demon possessed and now he's not, but really, how can you really tell? But we can tell because, well, these demons moved out of this man and into these pigs, and now they're gone. And so everybody saw it. So they see the actual demonstration of this kind of miraculous power happening. We then finish the story with the pig farmers, seeing this, and you can imagine their reaction. Their whole economy is just gone up in smoke. But more than that, they recognize, what is this? This is not normal. This is crazy. And they run off to their town and they report it to the town. And the people come out and they see this man who's sitting at Jesus' feet. They see the demons are gone because the pigs are gone. They see him dressed and in his right mind, which is the opposite of all the things he just was before, right? That he was demon possessed. He was roaming around rather than sitting. He was naked instead of dressed, and he is in his right mind instead of, just being controlled by these other spirits. And so they see this man completely transformed. He's the opposite, right? He's been completely renewed because of what Jesus has done. And it says they were afraid. That's the second reaction that we have. So the demons see Jesus. They recognize Jesus for who he is. They want nothing to do with Jesus. They don't want to be judged or condemned or sent into the abyss, but they recognize who Jesus is. This crowd also sees who Jesus is and what he's capable of, but instead of responding positively, they respond negatively. They are too overwhelmed. They want nothing to do with Jesus and ask him to go away. and he does. The final reaction happens at the very end, where it says the man who had the demons in him begged to go with Jesus in the boat back to the other side. And Jesus says, "Go home and tell how much God has done for you." And so this man does that. He goes away and he tells everybody about what Jesus has done for him. So this is the final reaction of in this story, that this man experiences this new life in Jesus. He's obviously seen and experienced what Jesus has done in him. And instead of being afraid or wanting to go away from Jesus, he wants to come with Jesus. But he's given this mission, which he does fulfill, of telling other people about him. So as we read this story, we're meant to know a couple of things. One, we're meant to see who Jesus is, his incredible power, that he could even command this large force of demonic presence, that he is even stronger than that, and they cower at his presence. But more than that, Jesus is the Son of God. He's the Son of the Most High God. He's not just some powerful guy. He's the Son of the Most High God. And the next part is that we're meant to walk away with is just to ask ourselves, and Luke has us do this all the time, which reaction is going to be us in this story. As we read this story and as we personally encounter Jesus through this story, how are we going to react? Are we going to want to get away from Jesus? Or we want to be afraid? Or will we see Jesus for who he is and respond that we want to follow after him and tell others about him? So I'll leave you with those thoughts and questions, and we'll see you next time. Bye.